As y'all come in, let us know if you can hear us, because this is the computer that doesn't always pick up the sound very well. So y'all let us know if you can hear and if everything's cool, and we'll go from there. All right, so hey y'all, it's Whitney, my sidekick.
I'm here.
And you are?
Jason. Technically, I am.
Maybe they don't. Maybe they're new. Anyway, this is Ask Whit Wednesday. We have 6 questions to go through. We're going to talk about negotiating skills and tactics. We're going to talk about what to do when you get returned letters. We're going to talk about when skip tracing doesn't work. We're going to talk about how to deal with other investor landlords and still get deals done. And if you're self-managing your properties, we're going to talk about how to do that from out of town. Finally, Florence has some questions about ARV and estimating repairs when all of the comps are already done, or when all the comps still need to be flipped. So we got a lot to go through today, but let's just start up at the top. Robbie asked, what negotiating skills or tactics have you found to be most effective? My favorite skills, negotiating skills anyway, is to give them what they want. Right?
Absolutely.
If you give somebody what they want, or if you educate them as to, well, here's what I want, let's see how we can make that work on your side, and then you meet in the middle, it's a lot easier to go into that negotiation than it is if you're hard-pressed and up against the wall and you're demanding and all that stuff. That just doesn't work. That doesn't work for me, and that doesn't work with me. So my best piece of advice for negotiating is to give them what they want, or give them as close to what they want as you can, and still make it a win-win for everybody. Now, you probably have a different answer than that.
I do have a different answer to that. And for our students and stuff like that, we do teach a whole module on negotiating like a pro, because it really depends. My first offer, or my first attempt at formulating an offer, is based on what I get out of them. So my strategy is very different from one person to the next. If I am dealing with an investor or somebody that's bought an investment property, that may be a totally different approach that if I'm dealing with somebody that is trying to sell a home that they currently live in. So
if they live in it, that's no fun at all.
You know, I have a much different process that I go through. But, you know, Whitney's point about giving them what they want, yes, that's partially true. I would say the biggest thing that you need to do is be a problem solver. Okay, and I say this a lot, but you can't hear it too much. Be quiet. When you're negotiating,
that's awful. That's awful.
Quiet.
That is so hard to do. Don't tell me to do the hard stuff.
You need to listen. You need to. If you're not listening 80% of the time, you're talking too much. Okay. You need to listen. Does that go in marriage? Oh, definitely. But you know, you need to listen, because you know sometimes people's pain is about money, but sometimes it's not. You know, I'm not sure if any of you saw the post Whitney put up, but somebody reached out to her and said, hey, I've got some a mixed use space. It's retail and some condos or apartments in Lenoir City, Tennessee. Well, one of our students has actually taken that, and they reached out, did some stuff, and then they came back to me and they said, hey, I need some help here. So I talked them through it and things like that. This individual that's selling this is at the point where they just want it gone. Okay, so Whitney's give them what they want. That may not work on this one, okay, because if I can get it for less, I'm going to get it for less. They have an extreme amount of pain, and they need to move very quickly, okay? So it really depends on the leverage that you have. I mean, I don't want to say that, but it really does. You need to be the problem solver, okay? If it's not about money and it's about headache and hassle and things like that, you're going to get a better deal, but you got to present it to where you're doing that, okay? So right now, somebody has a property, they're paying taxes, they're paying insurance and stuff on it. These properties are vacant. They're getting nothing for it, okay? I might be willing to make payments in this situation of $2,500 a month. but I'm not going to if I can make payments of $1,500 a month. So, be the problem solver for them right now. Something is better than nothing. So knowing that going in, I kind of have a leg up. What I will do, and what I recommended to this person they do, is when we talk about the offer, put the offer out there and then shut up.
Put three offers out there and then shut up.
Listen to what they need. If it doesn't meet their needs financially, they will always let you know. Okay, always. And we can always go up in price. It's very hard after you've reached a tentative agreement or talked about a set offer to go down in a lot of cases. So, I say that with anything. That's whether you're negotiating on this or whether you're bringing in a private money partner or whatever. Let them tell you what they're looking for rather than you telling them what you're willing to do. Okay, so a lot of times I base mine off of that.
And this is, when I teach negotiating, I teach give them what they want, absolutely. But I teach to make 3 offers. I teach how to do the 3 offers. And that way you're always giving them part of what they want and part of what you want. And that way it's a win-win for everybody. And it makes them feel good. It makes you feel good. That's the best negotiating that I've found out. And like Jason said, keep your mouth shut, which is so hard to do.
if you present yourself as a problem solver, then you're going to be in a much better position.
Absolutely.
And can I get on my soapbox here
no,
a little bit?
Because I got another appointment at 2. All right. So, second question we had.
No fun today. Second question.
Listen 80%.
No, that's for you to listen 80%.
You listen 80%. All right. Second question we had is when you if you send out yellow letters and they come back marked vacant, then you look the properties up and they're in an investment LLC. What do you do? Well, my suggestion would be to find who owns the LLC and send a letter to either their office or their house or something, but let them know if somebody has an empty property, even if they bought it in an LLC, there's a good chance that they don't want it or that they would take some monthly money from it. All right. So just because it comes back in an investment LLC doesn't mean that the deal is dead. Keep going.
You get postcards and letters all the time in your LLC, right?
And I'm an LLC. What do I care? Send it to me. I don't care. Maybe one day you'll hit me in the right, kind of mood and I'll be like, yeah, sure. Just take it. Whatever. Hasn't happened yet. But there's a chance. All right, next question we got was also about postcards or returned yellow letters. And what do you do if they're returned? Then you try to skip trace the numbers and it comes back wrong. Well, this is when you go super stealthy and you can either find the people on Facebook. You can look them up. Now, if you're trying to look up John Doe or Jane Smith, good luck. But another thing that you could do is if you sent a letter to 123 Main Street, go ahead and send one to 125 Main Street and say, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of the people at 123. Can you give me their phone number? Maybe you'll have to drive over to 123 Main Street and knock on some doors. Ask the neighbors. Say, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of those people. You know how I can find them? Are you friends with them on Facebook? Do you have a phone number? Do you have a forwarding address? Do you know anything about anything that would help me? Sometimes you got to do a little bit of legwork. Sometimes there is a little bit of work involved in really finding these people and getting the deals done. Sorry, hate to tell you, but there's a little bit of work to be done. All right, next question, and I'll let you cover this one mostly. If you are working with investors and landlords and they're trying to sell off their properties, do I have a preferred buying strategy with them? And to go on that, if it's rented to good tenants, do you keep the tenants or do you kick them out? And what do you do about repairs that need to be done even though it's fully rented? When you find a landlord and you're going after one house, but you find out they have 8, how do you make offers on 1 versus 8? All right, so all of that kind of rolls together into when we're talking to people that are investors and they're already landlords, how do we handle that? And my response to that is, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
And I would take it one parcel at a time. Every house is a different deal. I don't care if they've got 100 or if they've got 2. Every house is a different deal. The attorney is going to have a different document number on every single one of them. And you could do, if they have 10, you could say that every one of them is worth 50. Some of them are worth 75, but some of them are worth 20, but we're just going to average it out to 50. I don't know. I would want to know, no, this one is worth 25. I'm only giving you 25 for it. That one's worth 75. I'm only giving you 75 for it. Maybe some of them I'll cash you out. Maybe some of them I need owner financing on. So I don't think that you could just look at every block, every investor, every landlord and say, all right, well, here's just a bottom price on all of them. I know that if I was quoting the job, I would want to see it line by line. If somebody was coming through to buy my portfolio, I would want to see property by property. And I think other landlords and investors would want to see that broken down also. What do you think?
So I'm going to answer it a little bit different, of course.
I'll be back on that note.
If I were looking at it and they were rental properties and we were going to continue, this was a buy and hold and this is continue to be rental, I'm not going to look at it as a strategic, I'm going to look at it as a strategic move, not really a single family dwelling by dwelling. So I would probably start by evaluating the entire portfolio based on an income approach, much like you would do with multifamily or large apartments and things like that, or commercial properties. Okay. I'm going to look at how much income they've got today. I'm going to look at what I think the income potential is going forward. To increase that income, am I going to have to spend any money? Because I'll tell you this, let's take an example today. When we're talking about, let's kind of break this question down a little bit here, okay? What do you do with properties? And we could even be talking about single properties. What do we do with a single property that has tenants in it today? Do we boot them or do we keep them? Okay, so there's a couple of things that you need to find out. What does their lease say? Okay, if they have an ironclad lease, we can't just terminate that. Okay, it has to have a clause in it that says that it can be terminated in terms of ownership and things like that. Otherwise, we could, potentially have legal ramifications there. The second thing is, ordinarily, when you have someone that's getting rental income every month, let's say they're getting, for a good round number, let's say they're getting $500 a month, okay? Chances are your landlord is going to want at least $500 a month for you buying that house on a lease option or owner financing or whatever the deal is. And as you know, we have several ways that we need to make money. We need to win 2 out of 3 ways. So if we're not making monthly spread, that means we're going to have to make money up front, which we can't do from a renter, right? We make those non-refundable option fees when we sell that on a lease option. Okay, so you have to take that into account too. If you're talking about monthly payments, what is the owner or the seller willing to take? Okay, and if there's not some spread there, then keeping those tenants in place may not be the best strategy for us. Okay, and maybe you want to negotiate in that manner and say, listen, the lease is not up until March, and it doesn't look like that there's the ability to get out of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make those same payments to you until March, and then at that point, they're going to leave, but I'm going to need some leeway then. I'm going to need 60 days to get somebody in there. So maybe you work out something so that they get the rental payments up front. Maybe they'll go ahead and let you market the property while a renter's in there, okay? And that's a little bit trickier because that means that somebody's going to have to be there to show it. You can't just have potential tenant buyers showing up and you don't want what the current renter is in there telling people, okay? They may be the nicest person in the world, but if you're kicking them out and they don't want to leave, they're going to tell them any and everything that's wrong with the property, and then they're probably going to tell them some stuff that may or may not be wrong with it, okay? And we know that by experience. So, most of the time when we buy stuff like this, Whitney and I are not buying and holding. My buy and hold strategy for me personally is multifamily. So on single families, we're usually not doing that. Okay, so if we buy something that somebody's been renting out, we usually try to time it strategically so that the people can be out, so that it can be vacant, so that we have a period of time, whether it be 2 months, 3 months, whatever the case may be, where we're not making payments, and then we're going to go out and we're going to look for a tenant buyer. Because again, we want money, non-refundable option fee. We want monthly spread, hopefully, if we can get it. And then we definitely want to get paid on the back end when they take a mortgage out on that property. So a little bit more difficult if you leave the renters in place. Not to say that it can't be done, okay? Not to say that you can't negotiate with the seller so that they're actually giving you a longer term and you're making less payments. Because for me, it's about the payments and the income. It's not really about the price. I tell people all the time, you know, one of the questions sellers ask is they'll say, well, what's the maximum you'll give me for the property? You know, and it may be a $100,000 house. And I'll say, well, I'll give you $1 million for the property. And they're like, what? You know, you won't give. Sure I will. I'll give you $1 million for it. Now, you may have to give me 250 years to pay it off, but I'll give you $1 million for it. So it's not really as much about the purchase price. It's about the monthly income versus the payments and stuff that you're going to have to make. So just sit down and figure out those numbers. And if the numbers work, the sky's the limit here. You can negotiate and the deal can be whatever you want it to be, okay? That's why we like to do this type of strategy, because this type of strategy means that I can go do whatever I want to. I'm not held to the standards of a bank, and I'm not held to the standards of somebody else. Me and the seller are in control, okay? And we can do what we want to. We can structure it the way that we want to, and we're not being held hostage by, you know, an interest rate and a fixed term and all those type of things. All right. So that's the beauty of doing terms and creative financing deals, is you are in direct control. So in terms of, I've located a landlord who's unloading a wad of properties. Again, if it's a wad of properties, you know, usually the volume discount applies, okay? Because if they're looking to sell, they're looking to sell for a reason. And if they can deal with one person instead of dealing with many people on these different properties, having to split it up, usually you get a much better bulk deal. And what I would do in that situation is go in and, again, look at all the monthly income like it's one portfolio and then back into that. If they're all vacant, you know, what you're going to want to do is say, hey, how many of them can I get people into immediately or with a little bit of money? I'm going to go back to that complex that the deal came to Whitney, okay? 5 units total, 3 of them are move-in ready, so let's focus on those first. Let's focus on that money coming in, and then that will then allow us to start making some payments and then looking to see if we have enough money to do rehab or whether we're going to have to bring in an equity partner or something like that to actually get these things up to where they need to be. Anything else on that particular question?
Nope, you did a great job.
All right.
As always.
All right, next question.
Where did you go?
For people managing their own properties, what are some common ways of staying on the homes while out of town? Value bomb, expert tip, whatever we want to call it. And this is something we learned from somebody else, okay? We didn't create this. We picked up this tip from somebody else. One thing that we do with a lot of our properties, especially the handful of rentals that we do have, and even our apartments and stuff, okay, we include pest control services in the agreement, and that is non-negotiable, okay? Now, obviously, that's included in the rent. All right, but if it's $25 a month or whatever the case may be,
it's 10.
Well, for the multifamily it is. It's a little bit more for some of the rentals if they're, you know, more spread out. But anyway, just using a good round number, even if it's $25 a month, okay, well worth it, because what happens is whoever we negotiate with for our pest services, we have them go in monthly, and they come back and report to us on the condition of the unit. If they see a leak, okay, a leak undetected for a week or two is going to do some damage, but not nearly as much as a leak undetected for 3 to 5 months. So if they see a leak in the bathroom, the kitchen. If they see that the people have pets that are causing damage, whatever the case may be, they come back and report to us. Okay, and then that allows us to then invoke an inspection clause or follow up or
just send the handyman over to fix it.
Whatever the case may be, right? But your pest control services can be a good set of eyes and ears. Now a lot of people will say, well, in my contracts, I say that the property manager or, in the absence of a property manager, their designee can come over and do an inspection and things like that. Problem with that is a lot of that stuff has, 24 hours notice you got to give, and it's another person, okay? With the pest control, I'm killing two birds with one stone here. I'm making sure I don't have insect and rodent problems, and I'm keeping eyes and ears on that thing, even if I'm out of town. So
and it's the third Wednesday of the month. There's no 24-hour notice to be given. There's none of that crap because it's on the schedule and it's in their lease.
And that's my vote. A lot of people do different things, and there's no right or wrong, but that's what we do. We have proven that to be very effective for us.
And I'm about to start including yard maintenance in the lease, just going up $150 a month on rent. And not even, because I get these stupid letters from the city and then I got to make sure somebody goes and mows, and it's way too much babysitting. So I'm just going to get my yard guy to go mow everybody and just include it. I'll make more money that way. Bug guys and yard boys. I'd have cleaning ladies in all of them if I could.
All right.
I got a cleaning lady at ours.
So, and it's not her. So next question is, and actually Florence says she's got a few questions.
Oh, Florence is so good at questions. And Florence, I will say, Florence, Janine, Summer just joined us, and Randy. The four of them, I can pretty much bet my bottom dollar that they're going to book speed coaching with me every single week in the group program. Those four absolutely have some of the best questions and take advantage of all of the opportunities that they have available in group coaching every single week. So anyway, I don't even know what Florence asked, but I'm sure it's a good one.
How do you properly evaluate ARV on a home when all of the comps are before flip? You want to take that one?
I mean, those are the comps.
They are the comps, but we're talking about evaluating ARV, right?
And ARV is after repair
so
value.
if I'm looking at this comes into play when you're looking at. So I'll give you a good example. I was in a specific area of Atlanta earlier this year on business and knew that the area around the plant had a lot of bank-owned and distressed properties, okay? So I was driving around, just kind of looking to see what the areas were like. And
driving for dollars.
I would go down entire streets, y'all, where 3, 4, 5 houses, in some case 10 or 12 houses in a row are boarded up. Okay, vacant, nobody living in them. You ever do an analysis and you look and it says 80% of the homes in this radius are bank owned? And it's like, wow.
It's a lot of foreclosures.
So anyway, some of those neighborhoods are still like that. There's no activity there. And, it can be dangerous to do that. I know some people that have played in a couple of those neighborhoods and been extremely successful. I know other people that have to keep filing insurance claims because every time they did something, somebody came in and either destroyed it or stole it or whatever the case may be. But in an area where most of the homes are being sold and they all are distressed properties and they need repair work, I guess for us, it goes based on experience, right? I mean,
Well, think about the places. Okay, so we got 2 houses here in Rome, and we are sending letters over to that neighborhood so we can get 18 houses over there, right? So think about those. We bought one house for $2,500. We bought another house for $3,000, and now we're looking at a house down the street that's $30,000. So how do those compare? Well, the $30,000 house has a tankless water heater in it, and it's rented for more than we're getting. One of the houses we bought was on fire, and we didn't fix it. I didn't touch it. I've never even been in either one of those houses over there. But that's why we bought them for $2,500 and $3,000. That's why we know that this one at $30,000, based on what it's renting, still might be a pretty good deal because it's a real house. The other two houses, the $2,500 and the $3,000 house, they're crack houses. They could use a bulldozer, okay? But this $30,000 house just down the street, it's a really nice house. So, and it doesn't need any repairs. When I sold the $2,500 for $12,000, and they're doing all the work to it. I sold the $3,000 one for $10,000, and that dude's doing all the work to it. So if they get a deal, let them have a deal. I'm still making good money on that.
In this instance, and a lot of this just comes with experience, right? This comes with flip and fix experience, right? You start to know that, upgraded windows, cost me.
He loves windows.
In our case, we pay $200 to $250 installed for a new window. Okay. So we know that replacing the windows basically does X for the value in our area. All right. When we moved from Knoxville to Rome, though, there was a little bit of a learning curve there from us because it doesn't always translate. You can't always say if I do X dollars worth of improvement, that's going to be Y dollars worth of market or retail value. In this particular scenario, if you actually find an area and there truly are no comps for houses that have been rehabbed or houses that
need to be rehabbed
or livable and things like that, you can always talk to property managers or realtors. They will give, if you get good ones, they will know the market. Okay, they will know, and be able to give you a guideline or a measuring stick on what those are.
Or give the seller 3 offers and work a deal out. Get it under contract. You've got 2 or 3 different out clauses in your contract. Get it under contract and then find out what the market says it's worth. Then go back and renegotiate if you need to.
Yep.
Y'all drive me crazy. Jason does this all the time. He gets a house, it's a good lead, and he analyzes it, and he checks it out over there, and if he moved it over to there, it'd be worth this, and if he moved it over there, it'd be worth that. And, oh my gosh, I've already made 3 offers. We've already got the deal done. I'm looking at another one. Make the offer, sign the paper, put it out there, and then renegotiate if you need to. I hate the word research. I hate researching. I just want to make a deal happen. Get out there and make a mess.
What if you're buying it to flip it, though? And you're going to put your money or private money
Dude,
in?
You still have 30 days to close. You still got a month that you can put it out there to find out if this is going to be a good thing or not.
If you don't know, talk to an agent or property manager.
Or book a call with me. I'll look at it and tell you which way to go.
All right, can you bring your list of questions back up, please? The second one is,
Sorry, Sherry.
How do you estimate repairs and know that you are not getting taken advantage of by the contractor? Okay.
Oh, so, that's a good one. Oh
again,
my gosh, yeah.
So again, as you do fix and flips, and if you do play in that market, you'll eventually know that, hey, on average, for us, what does it cost to redo a bathroom? $2,500?
$5,000.
Not the one you did on Center Circle. In general, if I've got to go in, about $2,500. Okay, we can do a kitchen, depending on what kind of countertops and stuff we put in, $5,000 to $7,000, right, on a kitchen. Things like that. If you go with stainless steel appliances and stuff, maybe a little bit more. Maybe you get a scratch and dent special at Lowe's.
Oh, I love the clearance section for appliances.
But we have a range there. If you're just starting off, though, I would handle it no different than I would handle anybody coming out to do something at my own home. Talk to multiple contractors. Okay, if you have 3 bids and one of them's extremely low, chances are there's a problem. they've either misunderstood the scope of what you're needing done, or there's something fishy about their estimate. Okay. If the other two are in the ballpark, the other thing is ask for references. Do not be scared to ask for references. And if a contractor won't give you references, I wouldn't use them. Your risk tolerance and stuff for things like that will begin to change. Your appetite as you get more evolved and stuff like that. One of the most common questions people ask me on this topic all the time is, do I need somebody that's licensed? I can't tell you whether to use somebody that's licensed or not. I can tell you this: if you have an issue and they're not licensed, good luck, right? The other thing is, people will tell me all the time, hey, I need help. I got ripped off by a contractor. Well, what do you mean you got ripped off? Well, he took my money and ran. Well, why did you pay him before the job was done? That wasn't a good move. So just 3 or 4 bids should give you an estimate. If you get 4, like I said, chances are that at least 3 of them, and sometimes all 4 of them, are going to be right there in the ballpark. And then, what I do is I just pick the guy that I had the best connection with. For me, I want input, but I don't want to feel like somebody's telling me what to do. We had a contractor at an out-of-state property that just a couple of months ago that came in, and every time I tried to say something, the guy kept interrupting me. So I finally asked him, I said, are you doing this or am I doing this? And he kind of got offended. I appreciate your input, but I'll either use it or I won't, and you need to respect the fact that I won't. Because at the end of the day, I'm still writing the check. I'm using somebody else's money to do it, but I'm still writing the check. So
another thing is, go to a RIA meeting and find out, hey, have you all used this company? And they'll go, ooh, yeah. You don't want to do that.
I think most of y'all told me, Whitney and I went to a landlord association meeting. What was it, last week, I guess it was? Tuesday,
yeah.
So
Can you imagine me walking into your landlord association meeting and be like, hey, I'm Whitney.
They had the room, shut off while we were having the guest speaker and all the stuff. As soon as the door opened and people started coming out, there was a guy there waiting at the door.
Just eating dinner, just happened to be there.
Yeah, right. He was waiting there for us to all come out, and he starts, handing out cards, saying he was a contractor and thing like that. Chances are somebody's going to call him. Now, whether or not he gets business or not is going to be, depend on how competitive he is and stuff like that. But, 2 rules of thumb: if you don't know what it should cost, always get at least 3, if not 4 bids. And then second of all, do not pay them money until the job is done.
We learned that, didn't we?
Okay. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So, don't do it. So I hope that answered. Florence, if that didn't answer the question on either of those 2, just let us know and we can do a follow-up.
We can also talk about it on speed coaching tomorrow.
What else we got?
Oh, I don't know. I keep changing this.
All right, we'll stop doing that.
What do you do on a short-term contract when it reaches its balloon payment and your lease option tenant buyer didn't follow through with the purchase? So basically, if you have 2 years to do this lease option and you're coming up on your 2 years and your lease option tenant buyer isn't capable of getting the mortgage yet, what do you do? And the first thing I would do is try to renegotiate, try to extend, try to get another 2 or 4 years. And, maybe you give your seller some money to stay on the deal, or, maybe you say, I'll either keep making your payments for you, or you can have the house back and you can deal with it.
Yeah, I want to follow up on this a little bit too, Sherry, because it says, sell and take a loss. So on a lease option, we're getting the non-refundable money up front, and then on my deals, I always make sure there's monthly spread. So even if I decide not to exercise my option and just let the seller have the house back, I still made money because I still pocketed that non-refundable option fee up front because my tenant buyer didn't follow through on their end of the deal, and I pocketed that monthly spread on the payments that I did receive. So the only place where I'm losing out would be on the back end money when they close.
Yeah.
Okay. So I may be losing out on some of what I thought I was going to get.
Don't count those chickens before they hatch.
But at the end of the day, I still made money, right? So, if we have a $5,000 minimum, even if it's a $25,000 house, I'm going to require at least $5,000 non-refundable, up front. Now, if it's a $100,000 house, I'm not going to accept $5,000. And if it's a $200,000 house, sure not going to accept $5,000. But anyway, just keep that in mind on a lease option is even if something happens and you do have to turn that house back over, you do have to not exercise that option, then, you're still making money on the transaction.
And you wouldn't be at a loss. You just didn't get everything you thought you were going to. But there's still a chance that you could go back and say, look, Mr. Seller, do you want this or do you want me to stay in the middle of it?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, they will accept it. Now, I will tell you this, in a couple of cases, we've had to go back to the tenant buyer and say, hey, you didn't fulfill your agreement. We're renegotiating the deal here with the seller, but they're going to want some money up front, right? So maybe you tell them, we can re-up and do it again for another $5,000 down. And you may have to give $2,000 of that to your seller to get them to agree to that. And at this case, if I've already pocketed $5,000, I'm not going to get greedy here. I may be willing to give them some money at this point. But
only if our tenant buyer gives us some money because it's their fault that we have to renegotiate anyway.
Right.
So you could technically say, hey, you either pay up or you get out. And you would want to do that when you still had, 3, 4, 5, 6 months left on your option so that you could put the house out and maybe get a pre-approved buyer to take it and just cash it out. Cash out your seller, get an assignment fee, get the lump that you deserve. And you'd have to get rid of that tenant buyer to be able to do that. But get your money, honey.
And just make sure, don't ever give your tenant buyer the same term that you have.
No, Lord, no. They always get
that is a big rookie mistake that a lot of people make on their first deal. Is they'll agree to 2 years and then market it to a tenant buyer for 2 years. Don't ever do that. Make sure that you have some extra room there. So to Whitney's point, you do have options, right? In case, to Sherry's point, we may just want to list it. We may just want to offer it to the market. Maybe we say, hey, you know what? We got our money out of it. We got a non-refundable fee. We enjoyed the monthly cash flow. Now we're just gonna sell it.
Really fun experience. What else can we do now?
All right. So, what other questions?
That was the last question.
That was the last question?
Sherry had the last question. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we had time for me to talk about what I was going to talk about earlier.
Okay, we'll go back and do it now.
Remember when I talked earlier about being a problem solver? So I want to talk to you agents out there now, okay? If you go in today and all you can do is list the property, what are you going to do? Okay, you're going to tell them that, as is, I believe that, it's probably worth X. If you do these 5 things and spend $20,000, I think we can increase the value by Y, which may be 40 or 45,000.
You want your seller to spend what?
Yeah.
So I can what?
Yeah. Anyway.
True story. Jason was going to list his house, and the agent came by and said, all you need to do is put $20,000 in it, and then I'll be able to get you another $15,000 on that list price. No big deal.
50 on the list price.
Whatever. You still had to spend $20,000 out of pocket? I'll F that.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, dude, I got this. Thanks for playing.
So we advertised it on a lease option for the max value, had somebody come in, agree to it, and then at the last minute they decided to get a VA loan for it. So it did make a lot of money, but not as much as if we'd lease optioned it.
And we didn't have to pay the agent.
But anyway, but for you agents out there, okay, if you go in, you can basically only offer them one thing. And you can only offer them to list the property. All right. Well, what if you didn't? What if you gave them other options? What if you were able to offer them terms? Then you can actually become a problem solver rather than just offering one solution. Now, it may be that the solution does that. And I've told Whitney that 1,000,000 times. She does not want to list houses. She doesn't want to do it. But a lot of times when we go in, if you're the first person that talks to a seller and you talk to them about terms, probably 30% to 40% of the people you're going to talk to that you're the first touch point are going to tell you, no, I think I'm going to take my chances and list it and just cash out. Okay. A lot of those people are going to try it. It's not going to work out. And then they're going to come calling you 6 months to a year later after they've already been through 2, maybe 3 agents, because that's what people do, right? If the house doesn't sell, whose fault is it?
The agent.
Got to be the agent's fault, right?
Definitely
so what I'm going to do
fault.
is, I'm going to take a different agent and offer the same sales price. How many times does that work out? Not very often, right? What do we say is usually the problem? If nobody's making an offer on the house, what's the problem? Either your price is wrong or it's functionally obsolete.
It's the price or the property.
Something like that, okay? But anyway, and I've told Whitney that before. I said, you would be in a great position if when they say, well, I thought about listing it, if you just step up and say, well, I'm a broker, I'll list it for you. Let's do that. Yeah.
Option number 4.
She doesn't want to do it. Okay?
I do it.
But for those people that want to, I think that would be a great option because it keeps you in the transaction. And if that doesn't work out, you have touch points along the way. You can tell them the feedback you're getting. You can tell them why terms would be an acceptable option for them. Okay? And you plant that seed and then you let it grow. And by the time they're done with the listing, they're so frustrated that they realize the only way to get the value that they're wanting for the house is going to be
creative.
Because guess what? At the end of the day, remember, if you list it for $300, you're not going to walk away with $300 in your pocket on a traditional deal. Because as an agent, you're not going to work for free, right? You're going to want money. The bank's going to want money. The inspector and appraiser and all those people are going to want money.
Origination.
The title people want money. The flood certification people want money. Gosh.
Everybody's got their hand in your pocket.
That's right. So, if you're an agent out there and you either want to become your own broker or you want to work out something with your broker where you can offer term deals as well as traditional listings and stuff, make that a win-win for yourself and then go out and make that a win-win. You become the ultimate tool belt. Because you have different tools that you can use. Right now, you just got a saw. If they don't want it sawed,
your SOL.
The listing doesn't work, right? So, become a Swiss Army knife. That's what you want to be, right? You want to be a jack of all trades. You want to be able to, no matter what the problem is, you want to be able to solve it. And you want to be able to offer a solution.
And get paid along the way.
I continue to be amazed at the number of agents that discredit terms and they discredit creative financing.
No, they didn't teach it to me in real estate school. I don't need it.
Simply because it is an unknown or they're unaware of the process. If that's you, do some research on it. Listen to some videos. Listen to a webinar. Google it. Do whatever you need to do because I promise you it will help you in your career. Now, you still might have to work out something with your broker, but that's okay. Or you can become your own broker. Whitney passed the test. You can do it.
Thanks a lot, asshole. Anybody have any other questions? We got just a couple more minutes. I have another podcast coming up at the top of the hour, so y'all saw me eat lunch, and we're rocking and rolling. This is my 3rd podcast today. Guess who I podcasted with this morning? I've already been on 2 amazing podcasts so far today. The first one I was on was a lady named Sharon Vernholt. She's in Louisville, Kentucky, and y'all, she is amazing. Absolutely amazing. She's not really into lease options, but she's into some other really cool stuff. And I think she's going to help me write my book. So that's fun. And then I was on another podcast before this one with Joe McCall. Oh, yeah. Joe McCall does wholesaling lease options. So
as much as she rant and raved about wholesaling, can you believe somebody that promotes that had her on their podcast?
He does lease options. He wholesales them. Or he wholesales and does lease options. Anyway, Joe McCall is super cool. And I met him back in February in Nashville. We spent the weekend together at a workshop, a non-real estate workshop. I was with the Investor Grit guys, and Joe McCall is one of their guys too. So I was thrilled to be on his podcast today. So that's going to be coming out later. And I've got 2 more podcasts today. So it's a big day. Lots of talking.
And I got another one here that I'd written down that I'd forgotten about. Actually, I scrolled to. This was a really good question here, and I wanted to talk about this one. Somebody asked, how do you like to present your options to a seller? Email, print, do you use Excel and things like that? No.
I make my offers to the seller on the back of the contract.
Back of the contract, right?
Like, now, seriously. My papa always told me that this paper will lay there and let you write whatever you want to on it. On the front side is a contract, and on the back side is all my offers. And you know what that does? I can look at these and I can write, 3 columns. Here's cash offer, here's a 5-year offer, and here's a 10-year offer. And here's everything in the meantime. Which one do you want? And then they pick. And then I flip it over and I fill out the contract for the one that they picked. Now, if I need to go back and renegotiate, I say, where's the contract? And flip it over. And I can say, okay, we can do this one, or we can still do this one, or somewhere in between. But it's just right there on paper for them. I am not a fancy person, okay? That KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, that was written for me, okay? Keep it as simple and as plain and as regular English as you can. It does not need to be fancy. And he is the king of over fancying it.
When I first started, being too formal and being too buttoned up was actually one of my shortfalls and detriments.
It was a yeah.
Because what I found out, and for those of you that have attended our webinar, some of the things we talked about is when you use bandit signs, handwrite them. We have tried this over and over and over and over again, and every time, handwritten signs have always produced better than ones we had professionally printed.
You want to hear a funny story about bandit signs?
Hang on just a minute. Same thing with writing offers and things like that. I went in and created a nice PowerPoint landscape. It had borders. It had my logo and stuff, embedded in the back and everything with watermarks and all kinds of fun stuff on it. And guess what?
Overkill.
It was overkill. People felt like then they were dealing with a professional. They were dealing
a professor.
Well, I even had one guy tell me, he said something, he goes, how many of these you do? This all looks really formal.
We don't work like that out here. I just want to sign it on the car hood. Let's do it. Let's go.
And unfortunately, the bigger you are, the more people think that you're going to take advantage of them. I mean, that's just kind of the world that we live in.
That's why I'm glad to be 5'3".
So if you're simple, you're pushing it 5'3". But just be simple. You don't have to be
yourself.
Fancy.
Be comfortable. Be happy. If you want that big presentation, then do it until they tell you to stop.
People want a personal touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
They want to know you're a real person and that you're really on their side and on their team.
They just do. And that's, those of you that have taken, different courses and things like that, that. Okay. I've gone and sat in rooms with 500 to 1,000 other people and listened to somebody speak and got the workbook and all that type of stuff.
Oh, speaking of workbook,
and
they're ready.
I've done okay in some of that, but the ones where I've really thrived were when I had more one-on-one and the person could actually be a real person. And they didn't have to sit there and be structured and corporate and things like that.
And that was coming from Mr. Corporate.
That was a big eye-opening experience to me. So, funny story, I actually tried to take some of what I was learning in my side deal with real estate and take it back to my corporate job and say, well, hey, maybe this works both ways. Maybe I can go and be less corporate. So, used to, most of you can see I'm clean shaven now. Yeah. We went to a wedding and everything. I thought that it was a big deal. So one of the things I did was I grew a beard and everything was okay. I thought everything was good until I walked into our CEO's office one day because we were sitting there prepping for a board meeting, and he calls his executive assistant Denise in, and he says, Denise, can you go to Dollar Shave Club and look up Jason's address and get it actually shipped to his house so that he has the right utensils every day. So, sometimes things that work in your entrepreneurial business world don't always, translate over to corporate and vice versa.
Look, you're going to have to become a real estate rock star with Jason East because I got another call to get on. We got to go. Ask Wednesday is over.
You wanted to say something about Bandit Sons.
Listen, 80%. Well, I'll have to save that story for another time now.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, y'all.
All right. Hate to cut it short. If you have any other questions, save them to next week. Or if you're in group, go ahead and book your speed coaching call, and we'll cover it tomorrow. And we try to scroll through and get the questions, but for those of you that are actually commenting in the thread about that is wonderful because then we make sure that we don't miss those. So hope y'all have a good afternoon. We're out of here. Bye, y'all.